Okay, welcome back for composing an implicit or explicit thesis sentence. So, as you all are aware, every piece of writing has a thesis sentence, right? There's kind of no getting around that one. But we can take a look at the thesis statements that have been in the examples that we've been reading, either the student examples or the professional examples, and take a look at how and where and all of the nuances and complexities that is a thesis sentence. So first and foremost, a thesis sentence can be more than one sentence. A thesis sentence actually doesn't even have to be a sentence. And that would be called an implicit thesis sentence, which we'll get to. So first and foremost, for a thesis sentence, and we're going to try to use red this time. Maybe that'll show up a little bit better here. Um, so for a thesis sentence, there are four things that a thesis sentence must be. First, it must be an opinion. So we want to make sure that our thesis sentence or statement is not a matter of fact, right? We don't want to say that the sky is blue as a thesis sentence. It just doesn't leave anywhere for readers to go. So you can go through and try to write this, or if you're having problems doing it, try to write the words I think in front of your thesis sentence. I think the sky is blue. That's not a thought, that's a matter of fact. So you should be able to differentiate those two and make sure that your thesis is an opinion and not a fact. Number two, we need to make sure that it is arguable. Now, this kind of goes along with an opinion. Really what we need to make sure is that there's somebody in our realm of audience who would disagree with it, who would want to argue the other side of it. Once again, if everybody believes what you believe, if everybody's opinion is what this is, then we're not really writing an argument. We're not writing a narrative argument or a researched argument or an argument for change or any number of things. So we need to make sure that at least one reasonable person in our audience would actually argue with the statement that you're making. All right, number three, we need to make sure that it is provable. Now, a lot of people will say debatable, like there's a lot of different ways to write this out, but provable is that it can be backed up. So in this paper, right, you don't have to have outside research. You just need to have your narrative. So your narrative needs to be able to have examples pulled from it that help to prove your thesis. Okay. Later on, when you actually do research in a research paper, now what we're looking for is research that can be pulled from, evidence that can be pulled from that research that will prove your thesis. All right. Last one, it needs to be topical. And people will also say relevant, right? It needs to be topical for your audience. They need to care about it. It needs to be something that they have power over, something that they want to change, something that affects their life, something that is in current politics or culture or something. It needs to be topical to your audience. Otherwise, people don't care all that much. So these are the four things that a thesis needs to be: opinionated, arguable, provable, and topical. Okay, so go through when you draft your thesis, make sure that you check for those four parts. Now, the other part of composing a thesis sentence is, or a thesis statement, is where do I put it? Where do you think? So take a moment and think about the narrative arguments that you've already read and try to pinpoint their thesis sentence. Try to pinpoint where they put it. All right, there are two types of thesis sentences or statements. You can have an explicit thesis, which are all of these four things, and it is very directly pointable, right? You're able to point it out. This is the thesis. So, for instance, if we look at the reading for today, Growing Up in the Shadow of the Confederacy. With that, sorry, there we go. With that thesis or with that writing, they have an explicit thesis sentence. It's in there, but it's very uniquely not at the beginning, right? That very beginning sentence, which is underneath the title, and I'll bring it up here. Right? Memorials to the lost cause have always meant something sinister for the descendants of enslaved people. That is not the thesis. That first sentence of the actual writing, for most of my life, I didn't know Confederate statues could come down. That's not the thesis either. You actually have to go all the way down to nearly the bottom. It's maybe in the fourth to the last paragraph. The paragraph that starts, "That's why I never thought the statues could come down," right? Everything building up to this moment so far has largely been his narrative, his understanding of history, his lived experience with that history. There's been some great setting that have been talked about, some great character description that's been done. But we don't actually get to the crux of the author's argument until later on in that paragraph, when it actually says, quote, "The Southern reverence for the Confederacy for the first time in my life seems debatable and destructible in a way I'd never thought possible," end quote. So in that, actually, it's connected to another sentence. In that crux is where that argument is, that it's about this Southern reverence. It's about how it's starting to be dismantled, how it's starting to, do all of these things. So they have an explicit thesis sentence in the fourth to last paragraph. That's where they put it. Now, some of the other examples that we've read don't even have that sentence. They have instead an implicit thesis sentence, which can also be looked at as a controlling idea. All right, so you can have an implicit thesis. You can have a controlling idea as long as you can write it out and say that it's opinionated, arguable, provable, topical. This is one of the things, if you try an implicit thesis, which if you've never written one, go ahead and try it. It's kind of fun to not have to have a thesis. So try an implicit thesis where there's a controlling idea and each paragraph has some amount of evidence that shows what the complexity is. Now, I know this video is getting a little long, but last thing that we need to kind of make sure that we have in our thesis, whether it's implicit or not, is reasoning. So I'll put it here. Right? What this means is we want to make sure that if it's implicit, we can point to the because clause, or we just add the because clause. to our thesis sentence. So let me see if I can give you a quick example, right? This ends up allowing specificity, okay? So if the thesis sentence is something simple from a previous paper of mine, there are serious objections to today's horror movies. Okay, why? What are we getting at? How is this whatever? If we add a because clause, either at the end or at the beginning, now we can have, because modern cinematic techniques have allowed filmmakers to get more graphic, horror flicks have desensitized young American viewers to violence. So we have a because this thing has occurred, the reasoning, then this is what it is. And the reasoning comes at the end as well when we say it's desensitized young American viewers to violence. So cause and effect kind of process there with that thesis. So go ahead and draft your thesis. Choose if it's implicit or explicit. Choose where to place it. It doesn't have to be in the introduction. It doesn't have to be at the end of the introductory paragraph. A lot of them end up in the third paragraph or the fourth paragraph, or in this case, the fourth to the last paragraph. Wherever you place it, it needs to be able to be specific and it needs to be able to be done with purpose. So test it out. See where it's most purposeful, most able to get an effect to your audience. That's where we want to place it.